Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akpabio State, Nigeria. Several conversations have already gone on this breakfast show. Make sure to follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. Our Twitter handle is SpectrumT Online. We want to see you there. Let's have these conversations happening. Issues in Nigeria. Of course, just like I told you before we went on that particular break, there is something happening back here in Akpabio State. The governor of Akpabio State, Pastor Umo Eno, has been building a new bridge to restoration of political inferences. Of course, he's now becoming pally and friends with the Senate President, who happens to be a former governor of Akpabio State himself. But yeah, there's a lot of history that has gone down between those two. There is a strong rivalry that the average Akpabio person believes to be going on between we'll not say godfather, but the person who handpicked Pastor Umo Eno into the seat of governors, who is the former governor of Akpabio State, what's name now, Umo Eno. But yes, we are seeing his prodigy shaking hands every now and then with the Senate President. Is this a new morning in Akpabio State? This is the conversation we want to have this morning. And joining us this morning to have that conversation is Barrister Clifford Thomas, of course, an ace lawyer, ace journalist, and the coordinator of Akpabio Human Rights Community. Good morning, sir. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Well, good morning to you, Oyaima. It's nice to be on set today, and it's a good thing that we can sit down as indigents of the state and residents of the state to discuss this issue of relationship which will affect governance. It's a good thing. I just want to urge, good morning viewers, I want to urge everybody to fasten their seatbelts and see how we go.
Definitely. That's a big point that you have, picked on this morning, because we are looking at how this new boarding relationship is going to be affecting the political landscape of Akpabio holistically. But a couple of weeks ago, Senator Akpabio won the seat of president at the 10th Senate, and we know that he's one of the big names and illustrious sons of Akpabio State. But we'll not forget the fracas that happened between him and his own prodigy. Of course, he was the one that also led the way for Umo Eno to become the governor of the state. But just after that, they seem to have had a fallout, and that fallout existed for the 8 years that Umo Eno was actually governor of Akpabio State. On leaving office, Umo Eno himself also had the anointed one who happened to win the election in the person of Pastor Umo Eno, who is now the sitting governor of Akpabio State. But on the premise of both Akpabio now winning the Senate presidency, we saw, the state governor fly all the way to Abuja with some of his lead men to go and congratulate the governor. And just also over the weekend, last 2 weekends now, we saw a Thanksgiving service held in his honor here in Akpabio State, where we had the Senate president attend and the governor with some of his, leading cabinet members. Holistically, what does this mean to you in your mind as an Akpabio and an elder statesman?
Well, this is a very good step taken by Pastor Umo Eno. You don't need to inherit enemies of your father. Your father's enemies could become your friend. Nigerian politicians are a very funny lot. You really can't trust them. You really can't trust. I say this with all sense of responsibility. There's a history, a very forbidding history, of the governorship seat of Akpabio State. Don Etiebe actually assisted Obong Victor Atta. If I am wrong, let callers tell me I'm wrong. Obong Victor Atta to become governor of the state, when he told Benji Okoko then, you step down, allow Obong Victor Atta to become governor. But when Obong Victor Atta became governor, I think at a point they couldn't see eyeball to eyeball. And when Obong Victor Atta informed what's his name, Godswill Akpabio, you become governor, you take over from me. And he gave him prominence and brought him to limelight and showed him to every structure that was then to make him governor. But he turned coat at the 11th hour. But the goodwill Godwill had dealt became the major plank for him to become governor. And after some while, Godswill Akpabio could not see eyeball to eyeball with Obong Atta. Godswill Akpabio made Udo Emmanuel governor at all costs. Even when a lot of persons said no. Deacon Emmanuel, Udo Emmanuel became governor. And he kicked Obong Godswill Akpabio. Kicked him out. So there is a dangerous trend in Akwa Ibom right now that whoever makes you governor, you must fight the person. So the issue of godfatherism will come up sometime. And you become very uncomfortable with it. And you want to fight it. So I see early signs of that happening between, in fact, it wasn't up to 1 month, between Emmanuel, Udo Emmanuel, and Pastor Umo Eno. Pastor Umo Eno needs to survive. He don't need to be in the shadow of the former governor to survive. I don't know what people are saying, but I think the man is smart enough. He's a guy who grew up in Lagos, schooled in Lagos. The guy was, I understand, in the Nigerian police force, and he did contract jobs with Mobile. He has been in this state. He understands the temperature and the texture of politics of this state. And the man has something he wants to assert himself for. So he's asserted himself. And he said, no, I can't be in the shadow of my predecessor who had an enemy in Godswill Akpabio. And look, success has so many brothers, friends, and sisters. If Godswill Akpabio had failed to win the presidency of the Senate, a lot of people would have said, yes, we said it before. But as an illustrious son, there is no way you can push Governor Umo Eno from him. So there's a pack that is building up now. And that pack will bring peace to this state. Some people may not like Umo Eno hobnobbing with Godswill Akpabio, but I think that pack will bring a lot of peace, a lot of progress, a lot of stability in this state. This state needs a seaport. And the seaport will come to pass when somebody like Godswill Akpabio drives the process for us. We need a rail line. We need the power distribution company. We need a lot of things that will help stimulate the economy of this state. And you can't do it alone as an opposition state to the federal government. APC is at the center. PDP is here. Good arrangement. I like it. It's very fine. But I don't want a situation where the APC at the center will stifle and kill the government of the state. It happened during Bola Tinubu's time. If not that Lagos was a thriving economy, very fine economy, Tinubu may not have survived as governor. So Umo Eno is very sure of the course he's taking, and I support him 100%. I want Akwa Ibom people to join hands to support him in this drive. And Godswill Akpabio he made a promise that day, and we want to take him by his promise that I will support you, I will work with you. Why? Because he had his mind out. He was very vocal and open that day. And when he said things about his relationship with the former governor, and said, do not inherit your father's enemies. Don't inherit somebody's enemies. Make your enemies yourself. Make your friends yourself. Make your enemies yourself. Don't inherit some other person's fight and enemies.
Yeah. We've also seen, Governor Umo Eno set out a path for himself where he's continued to say we need to build bridges across party lines. And this, particular cycle of election is such that we have seen even the emergence of new political parties in the state houses of assembly and all the like. So it's not going to be where he comes as governor of the state and he's working with only PDP, house members, but we're going to have, PDP, APC, Labour Party, even YPP had 2 members at the state house. So we've continued to see, the governor in the last couple of weeks say we must build bridges, work with the best man who can get the job done, no matter what his political party is. And we are seeing him, carry on that embodiment with his new binding and healing relationship with the Senate president. But then Akpabio might have questions, they have concerns, they have fears with this new, relationship that is budding. How is it going to land on the heads of Akpabio? Let's not forget that we are people who are big on, we are Akpabio people, we are Umo Eno people. Factionalism is a part of how we play politics in Akpabio.
Politics made people strange bedfellows. That is one thing I want to say. And beyond that, I think Umo Eno has started well. His choice of appointments, he has started well. And he's meeting with the real people who are oppressed. My prayer is that he will also reach out to the 5,000 teachers whose case was destroyed by the establishment at the Court of Appeal. He is reaching out to people. He is healing. He has created a template for the healing process. And I want to also say that his wife is a strong pillar of support. His wife is a strong pillar of support. And the woman is actually telling her husband what we should do. Take the state as your church, as your congregation. How do you reach out to the less privileged? How do you have the resources? It's at your disposal. How do you reach out to people? So I think that the result will be very positive. If it continues at this pace, the result will be very positive. There are people on both sides of the divide who are not comfortable with the relationship. Some big men, prominent names, and some not too big, not too small. They are not comfortable because they believe in making capital gains from any division, any quarrel, any fight. So I urge them to sheath their swords and stay. Godswill Akpabio has a mind of his own. Pastor Umo Eno has a mind of his own. And these are individuals who know what they want, and they want to use the relationship to see how to secure what they want. Pastor Umo Eno cannot get seaport without the center. Remember that Western Nigeria, forgive me, is thriving because of the seaport. And if you have a deep seaport in Akwa Ibom State, it will take attention off Lagos, off the West.
At least balance it out.
No, it won't balance it. It will take attention off. So they may not want Akwa Ibom to have that seaport. They may not want Akwa Ibom to have that seaport. And if the seaport comes this way, we will have dry dock. I mean, dry port. Could have a dry port in Enugu where you can house more than 500,000 containers. So it takes attention off. And the roads will not be destroyed. In fact, the attention will be this way now. So it stimulates the economy this way. And once the attention is taken off Lagos and Western Nigeria, they won't be happy. They want that attention to be there. And the Igbos are ready to move. They are not comfortable with what is happening to them in Lagos. So I don't see a government with a prevailing influence of Western Nigeria allowing a seaport in Akwa Ibom. But with the person of Godswill Akpabio, is a stimulus to the advantage of Akwa Ibom. Godswill Akpabio will be able to interface from time to time and speak to Mr. President on why Akwa Ibom must have the seaport. So if Umo Eno does not hobnob with him, though it's going to cost him some things, it's going to cost us a lot of things. If he does not hobnob with Godswill Akpabio, as he has started, we may not achieve much. Number two, the politics in this state will change. You rightly noted from your background that Akpabio House Assembly is not just PDP. You now have APC. I mean, sorry, YPP.
YPP.
In the forthcoming local government election, I say a plethora of political parties jostling for positions.
Yeah.
And once you have a mixed house like this, you foster unity. Umo Eno, I'm not speaking for him. I'm not paid to speak for him, but as a civil society activist, I'm watching him from a distance. I think he's doing well. And we should encourage him to do better. Because at the end of the day, it's Akpabio that will gain.
It's a problem that will gain. That's definitely something we want to collectively look forward to. But then let's tilt a little bit to, talking about loyalty lines between Umo Eno and his own predecessor. And another thing that is worthy of note is, so far so good in the last maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks since the emergence of Godswill Akpabio, Senate President, and these activities, we haven't necessarily heard a fallout yet, a fracas, or even a response to some of the allegations or permutations from the people with regards to, what's the loyalty like between Umo Eno and Udom Emmanuel? No body language, no responses yet from that camp. But what do you see into that particular relationship?
I see Umo Eno doing his best to manage the relationship, but the hangers on of Umo Eno and even the former governor, and even those of the Senate President and of some very large leviathans within the polity will not want that relationship to go well. But I've also given you the history of the fight. You install somebody as a godfather, the person turns around after 2 years or so to fight. But that of Umo Eno, I see it coming earlier than projected. I'm a pundit, and I've studied these administrations. I had expected the point of divergence to take place much later, say after 2 years.
Okay.
Or after 4 years. But I see it is coming on earlier than anticipated because of the necessity of survival.
Yeah.
The necessity of, I have cases in court and I need support, even though the person who is supporting me is not a lawyer that will go to court on my behalf, but there are certain influences in this country, and you can't rule that out. So Umo Eno needs a stable environment. He needs a stable environment that has peace for him to progress. He has beautiful plans. And I also noticed one thing he did. He made a quote. There was a quote of him. He carries his umbrella. He doesn't need a PA on umbrella affairs.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a PA on phone handling affairs. Yeah. Go and do something so that the state government can support you to leverage on what you are doing. This idea of you just graduate from school, what are you doing? What do you do for a living? I'm a politician. A boy, are you a politician? A boy, you are very stupid to claim to be a politician. No, I am just referring to certain old adverts that we've had. So if Umo Eno continues the way it's going, relationship-wise, he will get it with the Senate President, even if he's going to rub off and destroy the relationship with his predecessor. Now, what is the value of an expired general compared
That's exactly what I was going to
compared
raise.
to an active general in place?
Yeah. So we see Governor Umo Eno mostly positioning himself, and not necessarily, it's not for personal gains.
Yes.
He's looking at the vision of how that relationship will benefit Akpabio State in the overall.
That's why we must all encourage him. You don't need to have been a member of PDP, to have been a member of APC or whatever. Wherever you are, please produce good ideas for the governor. Let him work. Let him run with it. If he fails, it's by choice. If he succeeds, it's our collective decision.
Collective decision. And even coming to some of the things that, Pastor Umo Eno is doing, because you raised an issue of having young people just believe that once you come out, you want to be a politician. Run around one politician, get a small appointment, and be the PA.
Some people have never been employed. They have only been employed by government because of patronage. He say, oh, I'm loyal, oh, I'm loyal. What is there for the boys and all of this? Go and look for something doing. This government needs ideas. There are issues on ground. We have issues of shoreline recession. We have issues of disappearing islands in Akwa Ibom State. We have security issues of people migrating from their communities, their countries, their states to come and inhabit Akwa Ibom and lay claim to the land tomorrow. And then that leads, you saw the video that there was a video that went viral.
Yeah.
And then they decapitated some people, slit them open and harvested their organs. And we were saying, what language was on that video? It shows that the drums of war have been beaten against Akwa Ibom people. And then we must rise up to ensure that we protect what we have. And there's been some misinformation here and there that, well, I don't want to use this medium to say it. I just want to focus on this. But Umo Eno has challenges.
It definitely has challenges, but it's great to see that he's on a path that can engineer healing, because we also see that even just, pigging back a little bit on the whole conversation of remapping Akwa Ibom State that was brought about by his predecessor, it has engineered some
bad blood.
Yes, bad blood amongst Akwa Ibomites. So we must begin to see how he works his way around that.
Some Akwa Ibom people are seeing themselves as not being Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom is Okobusem. But they are importing some very strange things into the calculus now to say that everybody who lives along the riverine or coastal communities or local government, they are all Ijaws. No, so when they begin to import this negative and erroneous impression into a state that has been Okobusem all along, it becomes a problem. That's why you see the fight. And the DSS is working hard, the police is working hard, but till today we have not been able to get an explanation whether that video was in an Akwa Ibom community. And why have we not gotten? So Umo Eno must sit up. He has a time bomb in his hands, and that time bomb can detonate anytime. So he needs to work with civil society. Don't when you say civil society, you don't bring donor agencies, big time organizations that are receiving heavy funding. There are those organizations that even faith-based or community-based that are working in our communities, that are working in this state.
And so we know the needs of
the people.
They
know the need. So they are the ones that can actually come out to say, this is what the challenges are. If you deploy good civil society organizations into that conflict, there's a group called the Peace in Niger Delta, PIN. If you deploy them, they can go in, do their assessment, and come back with results. They do baseline in partnership with others. Come back and say, this is a problem. How do we address it? This is how we address it. But when they begin to play the ostrich and think that they can keep doing what they've been doing over time and get a different result, is madness.
All right. Wow. So, well, great conversation there with regards to what is happening with the relationship that is brewing and bonding between the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the governor of Akwa Ibom State. We see that it holds greater hope for the people of Akwa Ibom if, the governor continues in this light. But just before we round off, this interview session this morning, let's tilt a little bit back to the center, the FCT. The presidency has released their, report on the fact that they do not accept the review of the EU on the just concluded elections that were held, of course, especially February 25 elections. They are saying that primarily that their report is unfounded and they do not have evidences to back up some of the allegations that they've raised. Remembering the fact that the EU pointed 6 areas that needs to be revisited as a result of these elections. What are your thoughts with the presidency's response to that report?
Well, we couldn't have expected anything less from the presidency. You brought in an umpire, gave him opportunity to assess the conduct of the election. At the end of the day, you turn around to say that you don't recognize them and you don't want to accept what they're saying. It means that you were playing the hypocrite from the beginning. So if the EU and every other bodies that came in give their evaluation of what happened, and you say you don't need it, well, their evaluation is persuasive. It's not binding. But it means that we may not the election in Nigeria may become more violent because you don't respect the views of umpires. And we stand the risk of also having a lot of sanctions against Nigeria. And some of the sins of some Nigerian leaders may be exhumed despite their immunity and diplomatic immunity. You'll be shocked that things may happen. Things may happen that Nigerian, there will be an outcry, but at the end of the day, the truth will come out.
Mm. So it looks more like the response of the presidency at this time to that EU report might not be positioning us so well. Especially, I think it was alarming when we read, that they do not have evidences to back up, some of those
Do
things.
they need evidence? When they went around the field, they saw things. They spoke with people, the real people, and they got results. Let me tell you, the European Union team, they have the real result of whatever elections were conducted. Mm. Yeah, so for you to say, oh, how did you get it? No, it's not how did you get it. It's not how did you get it. They have results. They will shock us. Things are coming.
Well, this is a lot of revelations at this time. Of course, these are more things we will continue to talk about, but our time has folded its legs and it's asking us, to leave the conversation at that this morning. But of course, Barrister Clifford Thomas has done justice to most of the conversation we had this morning, looking at the relationship between the president of the 10th Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the governor of Akpabio State, and also the response of the presidency to the EU report. What are your thoughts with all of these issues? Let's get that conversation going on Twitter at Spectrum T Online. But at this time, I want to say a very big thank you to you, Barrister Clifford, for coming. Of course, he's the coordinator, Akpabio State Human Rights Group in Akpabio State. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge, especially the history of rivalry that seems to happen from governor to governor. But we do hope that Pastor Umo Eno finds a good place to land in this boarding relationship. Any final words?
We're not just praying for him. We are going to work with him to ensure that this thing comes to pass. We have an illustrious son as Senate President who is willing to listen. And I like the role Umo Eno has played so far. But that was the Ikot Ekpone Senatorial District reception. We're looking forward to a grand reception by the Akwa Ibom State government on behalf of the people of Akwa Ibom State. But please ask questions. Always ask questions. Wherever you are, you see anything, say it. You find anything, ask questions.